Can't you hear me knocking? Exactly. Little Rolling Stones there. As I was thinking on it, it was actually the Mick and the boys. So anyway, collecting my thoughts. It's Friday. It's a great day here. Saw someone say in the chat room that it's like raining. Well, send it our way. We could definitely use it. That's all I got to tell you. It's dry here, but they say we're going to get some relief. So as I get the bus pulling out, get yourself settled down. As I get settled down, find your seat and give someone a handshake, hug. Yeah, world needs more of that. So, welcome everyone. Thank you, everyone in the chat room. Rick, what's up? Good to see you. Nina, how are you? Check out her show on Sunday. She's got a special guest there as well. So, let me just speak favor over us. Plant the seed. Seed time, harvest time. In fact, somewhere along the way, I once heard that the sower and the reaper would walk hand in hand. So, sow the favor, sow it in your life, sow it in someone else's life. It'll come back to you. Don't worry about it. Just chill. It'll happen. Nothing missing, nothing broken, as we like to say, because one leads to the other. And by all means, be kind to your mind. So it is interesting what is going on in the world today. There is some stuff happening. Gogo, how are you? Just want to say, everyone, I hope you enjoyed. Hi, Gaia. What's up? Good to see you, Loretta. Had a good conversation yesterday with Mike and Cindy. I do enjoy that couple. They are such a delight. And yeah, good stuff. And it's amazing how synchronicity works within this group. It does, all over the place. So I was in and out, and Lynn was listening to some radio station, and the guy comes on and says, there's this documentary coming out. And I think it's in November. And you're hearing the advertisement, the plug for it. And in that you can hear Marco Rubio saying, they've been here, they live among us, always have. They're talking about the aliens. And it's not only Rubio, it's a number of other people, you know, in high government places. So the question is, why are they doing that now? What's up? Is there something so imminent that they've got to make disclosure? How many of you remember and go back? I think it was last year. In fact, I know it was about this time last year. NBC News, you know, it isn't the NBC News of yesteryear. That's when NBC News was really a news station. There was this honor with journalists. It was the Fourth Estate, and it was, Edward Morrow and integrity. Walter Cronkite. That's who I grew up with. That's what I remember Vietnam so much about. But yeah, I digress. So, but NBC said the mothership is expected, and they didn't really say how long. They just said that it's on its way. Weird little story. You find these things all through there. The scene in Men in Black, the very first one, where Tommy Lee Jones is sitting there and he's saying with Will Smith, and they go to the newsstand and he's picking up all the tabloids. And Will Smith says, "What are you doing?" He says, "This is where the truth is." So there we go. And there ain't many of those papers left anymore, at least not that I know of. Maybe there are. I don't see them. But then again, you don't see newsstands everywhere. It wouldn't matter where I live. I don't think there would be a newsstand to begin with. But apparently, our government, um, you know, I mean, there's some whack jobs in the government. There ain't no doubt about it. But what if that, in fact, they're really trying to tell us something? No. There's enough shows I've done on this channel here that with what we've said, it's like they're here. They may never left. Well, maybe some of the relatives left, but they still left, the cousins behind, and gets into a whole weird trip, which is a perfect segue. High five, Steiger, for that one. Um, we're working out the details. I announced it with Mike and Cindy at the end of our show yesterday, but Dr. Heather Lynn, I am really excited. She's got a new book coming out as well, so let me get that over there. Uh, she's got a number of other books, and just in fact, we're going to read one of her Substacks because it's quite interesting. It goes with this. I mean, it looks like the Anunnaki, the Sumerians, I mean, they were a pretty hip culture. They got stoned. They got high. And those little things that, everyone has speculated, even moi, you know, comes to find out it's just their stash bag. We really thought it was some kind of, maybe advanced technology. No, it turns out that not the case. They were stoners. I mean, and I have no doubt they had to have music. I don't know what kind of music they had, but if they had stringed instruments, they could have played rock and roll, right? Maybe John Lennon, that's where he was channeling from, these Anunnaki. Could you see him up there, doing, a Woodstock? Just saying. We're gonna get into it. So anyway, hello Elderberry, how you doing? Little vanilla fudge, yeah. That's good. Inagata Davida, baby. Boy, I can tell you a story on that one. Mm-mm-mm. Jet, how are you doing? Good to see you, Stephen. Loretta, what's up? Rolling walnuts and listening. Well, okay, that sounds cool. Rick, how are you doing, brother? Trust you're doing it. Scotty Boy, I just want to give you a shout out. And Ginger, haven't seen you in a while. And David and all the rest. So, what's up? I, the Maelstrom. Good to see you. Go from all the way from Croatia. Favor. There's Deborah. Needing a nap. Well, sweetie, go and take a nap. Absolutely. In this medium, time is timeless. I mean, you could watch a video that was done 10 years ago and it was just as though you were living the moment. So, sweet dreams. Troy, good to see you. Sonoran Slinger too. What's up? Favor upon you. Guys, I got my partying at the back. I knew it. I knew it. It's always fun in the back of it. Hola, Bonnie. Good to see you as well as I'm just down here. And Monkey Experiments. What's up, Morgan? Hello, Regina. Robin, hello. What's up as well? Lucky, how are you doing? Ba-da-ba-da-da-da. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Hey, the whole environment at Alphabet, Google, YouTube has changed. I mean, yeah, they don't want to get in the crosshairs, so it's good to hear that. Glad to see that Jeffrey is back. That's good stuff out there. Bum, 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 bum. Places you can't go. Hey, Wayne, I don't know. Anything's possible. Yeah. Although I do like sleeping in. I don't know. Females are angels. Yeah, I would have. I've said that. I just never have seen any evidence of, but I am certainly in that camp for sure. All right. Our new neighbors is who's the new neighbors? Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Do, 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 do. Lady, hello, good to see you. Um, anyway, as we move forward, there is so much going on. So, I mean, disclosure, right? What in the world's happening? Got Ben's new book. Good book, Ben. Gotten all of them. Yeah, looks like the sun, if we don't do it, the sun will. Don't let the sun get you crying. All right, so let's get on with the show. Speaking of this, so working and we're looking to get Dr. Lynn on, and if you haven't followed her, do. She's a PhD. I'm not. I've not written a thesis, and you know, she's an historian. She likes to call herself a rebel historian, and I love that. We need more rebels because academia is compromised. It's like government. You've got a control system in there, and sadly, academia has always been under the control of the church. Yeah, they would never admit to that, but it is. And although that they'll try to tell you that, well, not associated with that. Yeah, you are. Always have been. And that um, paradigm is shifting. And when you've got historians that do the clinical work, that really do the study, and and are authors, archaeologists, etc., paleontologists, all that is involved in history. And when you have people who step forward and say, no, the history that you've been taught might not be what you think it is. And that's what's happening today. As we talked about yesterday, there is an awakening taking place. And it's going to be interesting to see as it begins to gain momentum. How does that go? So, these Anunnaki, apparently they lived. I do not know what they are. I know, well, let me just say this. I don't know what I know. I sense that this earth has had many renditions, many different versions. I believe that it's had many different occupants in its lifespan. Um, some may still be here, some may have died off, maybe some left. If technology does exist where you can travel faster than light, and that's the only way it can be done. I mean, even if you could travel at the speed of light and go to Andromeda, you know, not that far away, a couple billion light years out there, maybe not even that. It's still going to take you, like 500 million years. But if let's just say that someone has figured this out, maybe the existence of interdimensional beings is in fact reality. Maybe in fact we do ascend. Maybe we do transcend. Okay, I can dig that. So the way I kind of look at it is that then Earth has had a lot of keepers, gatekeepers, gardeners, whatever. And apparently they didn't last, which means I doubt that we're going to last. But let's just say that they had a way of saying, well, we like it here. And let's just say that maybe they weren't here to begin with because, I kind of look at it like this. If you were born of this essence of what we call Earth, then you are, by default, there are laws that our bodies naturally follow. Earth has her cycle, and no matter how much man tries to manipulate it, can't do it. Neither can the gods. Now, I saw a comment over in Mike and Cindy said someone said was, now this pastor's delusional. I'm not a pastor. Never have been. Delusional? You know, pick your flavors the way I look at it. But it's clearly that the documents that people rely upon, the Bible, you don't hear many people that always talk the Bible go to the Quran. You don't hear them going to the Talmud. So that's why you make reference to it, because it's everyone, yeah, I know the Bible, man. But in any case, it clearly shows that these gods, they change. Chapter 1 had a god, chapter 2 had a different god, chapter 3 had a different god, and, et cetera. And it's one of the conversations I'm looking forward with Dr. Lynn, because it all goes back to this whole Abrahamic thing. That's the key. I don't know what Abram met out. I don't even know if he met anything out in the desert. Maybe it's a story. I have no proof that this, you know, dude lived. They say he lived. 100 years from now, will they be talking about you? Let me just hello, Goddess Avinia. How are you, dear? So let's talk about Rick Downing. So in 100 years, Rick, what are they going to be saying about you, your family? And let's say you get cremated, so there's no remains, there's no grave, right? So how would people know that you existed? If this medium continues, well, maybe that would be a way, but think about it. I mean, 500 years ago, do you remember the guy or the gal that had to carry the crap out of the masters or, the king or queen's home? No one writes about those people. You know, I mean, they really got the shit into the stick, literally. So did they live? Probably more evidence knowing that they lived than some of these religious characters because we know someone carried out the crap. Wasn't the king or the queen, the prince or the princess. Somebody had to do it. You see where I'm at? Kaya. We think we know. Probably better closed than open. Minded, I guess, right? What does they say? A closed mind is a captured mind. So, let me pull this up. This is, by the way, let me go right there. In the Substack, I'm actually going to start writing a little bit more on my own Substack. So when I get that fully worked out, make sure you check it out for sure. So this is Dr. Heather Lynn's Substack. As you can see, there is, if you want to get to her, and why not? Come back and show her some love, learn some stuff. I love that. So the Anunnaki wristwatch is found. Remember, I mean, I was caught into all that. It's like, yeah, it's some kind of, beam me up, Scotty. Apparently not. It was just jewelry. Who would have thought? And there they are, right there. And this has been a recent discovery, again, from the diggings out there in Iraq and Iran. So let's just read a little bit about this because I think you're going to find this so curious. They've been called wrist watches of the gods, mysterious bands seen on the wrist of Sumerian and Akkadian figures and ancient reliefs. For decades, proponents of the ancient astronaut theory have pointed to these objects as evidence of lost technology. Arguing that their uniformity and prominent display suggested some kind of advanced device. What if the truth is even more interesting? What if the so-called wristwatches weren't tools of measurement at all, but rather instruments of initiation, markers of sacred timing, and symbols of psycho-spiritual kingship? Wow. While researching my forthcoming book, Anunnaki Revelation, I recovered a largely forgotten photograph taken by an Iraqi archaeologist who worked in the aftermath of the Nimrod Queen's tomb discoveries. Much of his archive is now missing or inaccessible. Sad. But one image, because you remember all the pictures we saw back there in the that war in the desert there, you had those idiots destroying these Mesopotamian, these Babylonian structures. You see, humans are messed up, you know. And yeah. Anyway, that's doesn't need to be talked about. Um, Much of his archive is missed, but one image of a pair of royal cuffs survived. The photograph shows varnished gold bands with intricate granulation still visible through the aged image, wide ceremonial cuffs that dwarf any modern jewelry. Their surfaces covered in thousands of precisely placed gold beads forming geometric patterns. I am publishing that image here because it illuminates the larger story about ritual power, cultural theft, and who gets to control the memory of Mesopotamia. That's my problem with stitching. I mean, there's a room for people like stitching, but again, more damage and more ill conceived so called truths that weren't truths at all, just the imaginations of one man. And there is the cuff, quite beautifully. Their fascination of with gold, we haven't lost that. It's still there. Um, what the cuffs actually were. In 1989, Iraqi archaeologist Muzam Mohammed Hussein made a groundbreaking discovery beneath the northwest palace of Nimrod, ancient Calhoun. Inside the queen's tombs of Yoba, Benetu, and Attaya, he uncovered extraordinary assemblages of gold, diamonds, crowns, collars made from hundreds of gold beads threaded through multi-channeled bar spacers, torques, vials, bowls, rock crystals, vessels, and gold collars, mirrors, earrings, stacked row of bracelets and armlets. Did you catch the mirrors? Man, interesting. And so many of us think, well, you can't find a mirror, and that was 8,000 years old. Why? Apparently you can. They have. We continue. The most remarkable piece was a gold crown weighing over a kilogram, adorned with 140 delicate grape leaves and clusters of lapis lazuli grapes, held up by 8 winged female genii. But it was, did you get that? Female. But it was the lower half of the crown that revealed the deeper mystery. 3 rows of opium poppy capsules alternating with granulated rosettes. Initially, Western scholars, including Dominique Cullen, misidentified these as pomegranates. Hussein later corrected this assumption, recognizing them as representation of the Pavar somniferum, opi, the poppy, opium, that would have been central to Neo-Assyrian royal rites. It's like I said, these were the first hippies. I mean, getting high has always been the thing about humans. You see, the reality of this death plane is so great. And people will say, well, I don't get high, Wayne. Really? Not at all. I mean, there's more ways to get high than just through a substance. Your brain releases dopamines, makes you euphoric. You sing, you dance. You can do breathing exercises that will dump the dopamines into your brain that'll get you so freaking wasted, baby. You be tripping. But getting back to the point here, so 8,000 years ago, these people were growing opium. I have no doubt that they were growing cannabis as well, and probably mushrooms and who knows what else. Maybe some good old DMT. I don't know. That tea they be drinking. Uh, I'm just saying. These wide, multi-strand arm ornaments, the cuffs, were not modern bracelets, but structured components of royal regalia that likely sat over a textile base. The cuffs, constructed from thousands of granulated beads and spacers, are often reconstructed from elements whose exact or original stringing isn't obvious without careful stratigraphic notes, fueling modern misreadings that fixated on the object's shape rather than its liturgical function. The Hugel Rite, decoding the sacred technology. It's magic, baby. Every religion is magic. Think about it. You're making homage to something you can't see. That's magic. And it's been with us apparently for a long time. Court imagery from the Neo-Assyrian period emphasizes rosettes at the head, patterned textiles across the torso, and bands at the wrist. You know, back when I was, studying the Bible, I remember us getting deep into the Levitical priest, that ephod that they wore, and then they had to wear that special silk undergarment underneath. It told me that you're dealing with some electricity. You're dealing with electromagnetism because if they didn't do that, apparently it'd fry their ass. But anyway, um, the body becomes a diagram of thresholds: crown, hands, souls. The wrist is where human action meets divine sanction, grasping the mace, raising the libation, receiving the royal decree. In this frame, the cuff is a timing instrument only in the ritual sense. It signifies the moment of authorization. I tell you what, I love the knowledge that's coming forth. In her forthcoming book, Anunnaki Revelation, she says, I connect these ornaments to a suppressed initiatory current I call the Hulgal rite. The terms derives from the Sumerian ideograms found on clay tablets of Nippur dating to the third dynasty of Ur, that's 2100 to 2000 BCE. The Hilgal translates to joy plant, a term that referred to the opium poppy and its profound psychoactive effects. The mechanism was precise. The Apkula, those mysterious winged beings, are shown dipping pine cones into their, and I hope I get this right, banduda, their buckets, then anointing the king. Oh man, that's going to upset some people out there. The pine cone, long associated with the pineal gland and altered consciousness, served as the applicator for substances derived from the opium poppy. Stored in non-porous containers, possibly similar to those chlorite vessels found at Geroft. The king's transformation wasn't symbolic but paramological, opening what the ancients called the third eye to commune with otherworldly intelligences. Kind of puts a whole different lens, doesn't it? The Anunnaki getting into some, I mean, have you ever done opium? I did. That shit will put you into a place that the gods be talking to you. Guarantee it. But and I have no idea what they were doing here. I mean, I can only imagine a king or queen, um, you know, taking the initiation rite. Yeah, you're going to be tripping with the gods, and they be talking to you. Pharmacological. Wow. So they ain't nothing now, are they? It kind of changes the whole thing, doesn't it? Wow, 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 wow. It was their happy purse. You know, and the wristbands, just royalty. Apparently, you had to be royalty to have one of them. Now, what we thought to be, I guess, and this will have great conversation when we get it confirmed, but So this tree of life that we seeing these and stitching and all of the the thing that was talk. What if it's just an opium plant? Says this explains why the so-called wristwatches matched the view of the poppy capsule from above. No tree of life. Well, I could see where it could be a tree of life. Yeah, a tree of life of enlightening, awakening, the pineal gland. I mean, it's all connected. Huh. Um, Complete with the radiating incision marks used in opium harvesting. When latex oozes from these cuts and dries, it creates the extract star pattern we see on the royal bracelets. The Assyrians weren't depicting timepieces, they were encoding the source of their king's divine authority. I'll be curious as this begins to get around on YouTube and the others. How are those who have pounded the table and screamed to the heavens, shaking their fist, that this is divine? This is the tree of life. No, it's where you get stoned, baby. I mean, you're going to get your eyes open. It's going to change your ass. You ain't going to see things the same way anymore. And you're going to want to go back there. Hmm. My. The real conspiracy isn't that the gods wore wristwatches. It's that we were trained to see advanced tech through a Carcinian materialistic lens, when in fact, the advanced tech the ancients possessed was what we would call spiritual technologies for expanding awareness, accessing non ordinary states, and navigating invisible realms. Wow. I mean, what do you say? The colonial game of keep away. So, why has this rare photo of the cuffs themselves never been widely circulated? Why were the finds from these tombs never given the same spotlight, let's say, as Tutankhamun's gold mask or the treasures of Ur? The answer, as always, lies in politics. Politics is a curse, and it's a dark magic. Look what it's doing to men and women that supposedly will look in a camera and lie, knowing that they're liars. They know they're lying. You telling me those bitches and sons of bitches are going to fucking heaven? When they sit there, cause pain, they cause misery, and they delight in it? Many members in Congress and the Senate and the House are Satan worshipers. They don't worship this God that people go to church to on Sunday. And look at their actions. Listen to their words. That'll tell you who they're following. So, why did the political elite know about this and hide this? I can't wait to get Dr. Lennon getting this in there. But let's see what she writes here. Um, Under the 1924 Law of Antiquities, authored in part by Guthrie Bell during the British Mandate of Iraq, foreign archaeologists were entitled to a substantial share of whatever they excavated. This law entrenched in colonial dynamic that allowed Western museums to walk away with thousands of priceless artifacts, while Iraq's own institutions were left under-resourced and under siege. Operation Desert Storm wasn't about getting rid of Hussein. No, it was to rob him and the Iraqi people of what they found. That's where those special forces went to. They went to the museum. They didn't go to the weapons bunkers. Why? Because there weren't no weapons to begin with. Never did find them, did they? Yeah. When Sir Leonard Woolley excavated the royal cemetery at Ur, In 1920s and the 30s, he personally oversaw the division of finds between the British Museum, the University of Pennsylvania, and the nascent Iraq Museum in Baghdad. Photographs from these excavations show objects nearly identical in function and placement to the Nimrod cuffs, yet these images are rarely shown. They were taken, cataloged, and in many cases vanished into private collections or institutional vaults. And if you read her books, she gives you a great background on a lot of archaeology. It's a nasty profession. I mean, nasty. And the thing about it is, it's odd because the archaeologists suddenly seem that they're you know, the curators of truth. And they're going to be the ones to determine who sees that truth. And it's highly political. You got bloodline families, you got political parties, you got money. Even today, there is this black market for artifacts. And the more they're connected to the occult, the more the price goes up. Um, by the early 1930s, as Iraq asserted sovereignty, the Arapahoe affair triggered a diplomatic fight over whether foreign missions should receive anything more than duplicates. British museum officials lobbied their government. Foreign Office correspondents framed Iraqi reforms as a test of whether Iraq was modern and progressive. Anytime you hear politicians saying they're progressive, they're a lying son of a bitch. Don't believe them. That progressive is a code word is that they're going to screw you over with because it's their way or no way. You see, progressives are the least open-minded. Well, Wayne, are you trying to piss them off? No. Better to be pissed off than pissed on. Get real. These documents make plain that archaeology and imperial influence was entangled, still is today. How the gold disappeared. Hussein's careful excavations and documentation at Nimrod's represented a monumental achievement of Iraqi-led archaeology. At the onset of the 1991 Gulf War, Iraqi staff created much of the high-value gold from the Queen's tomb and secured it in the central bank of Iraq. The vault survived the 1991 bombing. In 2003, amid invasion and looting, an attempt to breach the vault with an RPG failed, killing the looter and flooding the basement, but the crates remained. Following the 2003 invasion, the Iraq National Museum was looted, and thousands of priceless artifacts were stolen or destroyed. Many of Hussein's records were either destroyed or scattered. The archaeologist who photographed I obtained was part of a team working to document these items in the 1990s during a time of increasing instability. He is no longer reachable. His archives is presumed destroyed or confiscated. We don't know our history. And even the history we think we know, my bookshelves are filled with Sumerian books. None of them said this. I mean, to think that the Anunnaki were rolling joints, smoking the opium, yeah, makes sense to me. I'd see a planet too. Bringing the strands together. The photo I'm publishing matters because it anchors this entire arc in a single, tangible object. The cuffs are the hinge between three realities. First, ritual authority. They were part of a coherent regala system keyed to sanctioned speech and vision, marking when the king was ritually aligned with the heavens to act in the god's name. 2. Iraqi scholarship. The most important modern work on these tombs was done by Iraqi archaeologists like Musaim Hussein, who correctly identified the poppy imagery despite pressure to conform to Western interpretations. And that's a warning for all of us Gnosis seekers. We are so trained in the Western perception of interpretation of what we think these Eastern cultures were. That's what the whole Christian religion was about. It was to wipe out all the other religions because there would be no competition. But the plan, you can't do that because that's where they came from. Three, foreign control and disappearance. Laws of Partridge, diplomatic pressure, war, and the art market together ensured that the most symbolically charged objects either left Iraq, were hidden, or became drastically under documented. What ring? I don't see no ring. So let's see an inventory list. No, there's no ring. So I guess you can keep it. It didn't exist. These aren't wristwatches in the technological sense, but the intuition that they regulate a form of time is not wrong. They regulate ritual time and political time. The moment when a human being is permitted to act in the God's name through the pharmaceutical enhancement of consciousness. See, I know that there's a lot of God talkers in this group. Yeah, we talk to the goddesses. Mm-hmm. Why this matters now. The suppression of this knowledge isn't accidental. When we understand that the foundation of divine kingship rested on the consciousness altering practices, we begin to see why this information has been obscured. The wristwatches of the gods narrative serves as a convenient distraction from the more unsettling truth. Our ancestors accessed non-ordinary states of consciousness as a technology of power. This isn't about promoting drug use. It's about recognizing that the veil between worlds has always been thinner than we're told. The Assyrian priest knew something we've forgotten. Consciousness itself is a technology. Let that sink in. I mean, that just changes everything. Your consciousness is a technology. Mine. The consciousness as itself, as a construct, is nothing more than technology. I think Dr. Lin is right, spot on. The certain plants serve as keys to unlock dimensions of experience that modern materialism denies exist. As many of you have found with yourself, as you get more into self and you begin to see that there's this greater connection, the materialism begins to really kind of fall away. Things that were once important are no longer important at all. Our ancestors knew this. And if the Anunnaki were in fact the result of another species of a higher intelligence and a different origin, it seems to me that they may have been coming here to harvest some plants themselves. I have no doubt that probably some distant world, they're smoking a joint right now and connecting to the gods. That's how it's done. And this is not promoting drug use. The mistake is assuming the object is technological in a modern sense when it's actually psychotechnological. It is consciousness, ritual, and access. Technologies of consciousness, not circuits. We won't stop there. This H file marks the beginning of a new investigation that blends archaeology, suppressed history, and symbolic decoding. In the coming weeks, the H files will explore more cases like this, but with far more depth. The vanished city of Idu, the mystery of the Kahibra archive and the link between ancient history, modern psychological operations, archaeology, spycraft, warfare, and the occult. This post is free to read and to share, so we have done that. And then she gives all the sources. Thank you, Dr. Lynn. Wow, wow, wow. I don't know how you see that, but I find that interesting. It certainly puts a different spin on it, doesn't it? And then it makes sense, from an occultist point of view. Every experience, everything that I would call a religious experience, every type of spiritual experience uses psychology. They use certain techniques to get you into that state of consciousness. Now, how it works in church is this: they teach this. You always start out by having praise time, singing. Now, if you've listened to people sing in church, you know many people don't sing. And so for them to be in a group, to almost be forced or coerced into singing, what they find out very quickly is that with the music and other people singing, they become into this subtle state of consciousness that is easily manipulated. And as they begin to sing and worship, the presence of God comes into them and they feel euphoric. Now, the human mind can only maintain that to an undisciplined mind for a very short period of time. And so the trick is not to make the worship so extensive, but yet make it effective enough, because the next part's very important. While you're in this state of consciousness, many will have the sacraments. That is a whole thing within itself, but that's when they always do the offering. Because if you're going to come worship God, you have to give an offering. And when you're in this euphoric state, you're apt to give more than not. And then finally, you have the message from the pulpit. It's pulling you into the pit, but the message is because that's what it is. Now, many of you who practice your own ceremonial magic, I don't know if you use certain libations or other things, but yeah, it's very well known, very common for a long time. Yeah, you can get into, I mean, alcohol plays a role in that. Always has. I mean, you want to make a reference to Noah, right? What did Noah do the first thing when he got off the boat? What did he do? He got drunk. Mm-hmm. Certainly did. And there's other stories like that. So, there's a reason why they call alcohol spirits. But the psychoactive aspect of other things that humans ingest in rituals, well, most of us got it anyway, but you can see it's like, wow, they've been doing this for a long time. And it's an interesting question when you think about it. So, do the gods or goddesses, whoever whatever this is above here, um, why is it that when you're under the influence of these psychoactive uh, elements, chemicals, nature, by the way, natural, that it puts you into it? And I can tell you from personal experience, there's a difference between how people just want to get high, than to get high and then to start channeling, start talking. It's a ritual. You can say it is as religious as any other religion. It's a ritual, and it still gets me into the question, well, then why is that? I mean, are the gods themselves wearing tie-dyed shirts? Are they wearing sandals? I mean, what's going on here? I mean, am I hearing LA Woman on the other side? I mean, did they finally start clapping and saying, damn it, they finally figured out what electric music was about. Now we got rock and roll again. I mean, is that how it happened? Oh, well, you're out there, get me some, come on. I don't know. Um, uh, I think actually Noah drink from honey wine? Honey beer is what I think it was, but that's interesting. Yeah. So if you connect with God that is high, do you become high too? I think by association. Yeah. Now, no one's here is endorsing drug use at all. That's not what we're doing. We're talking about history. We're talking about archaeology. We're talking about reality. And again, Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian, Mesopotamian, Hebrew. I mean, you can go all the way. They all ingested these plants, these medicinal plants. There's some to this. And I'm not saying that, you can't connect just, yeah, sure you can't. But I guess then it's like going out to dinner. Do you put a pair of cutoffs on or do you put on a jacket? I don't know. You're still going to have dinner, right? Honey can last forever. Yeah, and it does. Yeah, it is so true. Chaos, I'm glad someone's honest. I liked it. Says, I see the astral clear when I'm stoned and found the astral before I seen through this entire reality. Well, by the way, I don't know, this won't come as any surprise, but Trump will be announcing that they will be pushing the FDA and the Department of Justice to now bring marijuana down into the same classification as alcohol. Get ready. Learn to grow your own is the only thing I can tell you because they're going to tax the shit out of it. But anyway, just saying. Bonnie says, I see the astral, the best one I'm dreaming. I like that. Let's see. Epicentric says, God is not a name. Who, what, where, when, and why is God? I don't know. Don't know. I just find it interesting. And it changes the whole discourse. I mean, maybe we're not dealing with aliens at all. Maybe the aliens are really just, they were here before us. And then you got to think about this. All right, so let's take this concept that there is this singularity of consciousness, right? And it's into creating things, it's into creating planets, universes, galaxies. And it comes down and it finds this planet here, and so it's doing the terraforming thing. So when it gets to what plants do we put out there? I mean, I can see the giant sequoia. I can see, the grass plains. I can see a lot of them, the flowers, the wild. I get all of that. But at what point in the conversation did it think, you know what, we got to make sure is to put down that marijuana plant, put down that cannabis plant, and make it variation, thread around the world because it grows throughout the freaking world, right? And oh, let's get the poppy, because it has such a beautiful flower. I mean, the Wizard of Oz was about drugs. I hope you know that, right? You didn't pick that up in the Wizard of Oz? Go back and watch it. But it was by the influence, and isn't it odd that even in the Wizard of Oz, the opium led to you talking to Glinda, the good witch, or the bad witch. It certainly led you to the wizard. Hmm, is that a hidden sign? Hmm. And I will say this, I love the Satanists and their, if you've never attended, you should, open your mind, you know. But I kind of dig in a couple that I've been in, where, yeah, the psycho activity of consumption was there. It leads to a very interesting time. But then again, you got to ask yourself, well, what god or goddesses would do that? I'm just saying. Uh, And let's not forget the mushrooms. I mean, isn't that a hell of a way of putting it in? So what we're going to do with the mushrooms is that we're going to make sure that some you can cook with, some are really good, some that will kill you dead, and then there's some that will go to your head. Oh, yeah. What about that, huh? And isn't it interesting? Each one of these sacred plants brings you a different aspect of the divine. I mean, you're going to have a different path if you use this particular plant to this plant. You're going to have a different experience. Oh, far out. Maybe that's what death is really all about. I don't know. uh, just saying for a friend. I told you this was going to be fun. And so you can see that these cats were really the first hippies. I get it now. I get it why I've always been attracted to that thing. And yes, I was introduced to that culture at the age of 15. Well, the first was 14, but I was immersed into it not by my choice. I lived in the drug culture. I lived in the 1970s, right down there in the Montrose area. That's how I made a living. Yeah. I would buy a pound of pot for $90 and resell it for 160. I doubled my money. Yeah. And the thing about when you get high, music seems all that much more intense, doesn't it? Now, there's nothing wrong being completely straight, as they say. Although, with everything that we breathe, everything we eat, I doubt if that's the case. Because you know what? Most people in the world, I don't drink coffee, but most coffee drinkers, don't tell me you don't get high, you fibber. You're drinking that caffeine. I'll guarantee you this, brother and sister, you ain't normal. You drinking that soda pop with all that sugar and all that caffeine? Guess what that sugar's doing to you, baby? It's getting you high. You just don't realize it because you've been trained to say, "Well, it feels normal." Yeah, that's because that's what you think is normal. So anyway, I'm just saying. The book that, you know, the whole thing of Jesus is that Jesus was a cat that was into mushrooms, into psilocybin mushrooms. I got the book right there. Mushroom and the Cross. Great read. Y'all read it. We may even do it. I did a story on that. But yeah. And when you're under psilocybin, it has a whole different effect. Why? It's like now in states like Colorado where they've now legalized it. And what they're finding out, if you have this post-stress disorder, microdosing on psilocybin relaxes you. We're finding now that it has effects on the body that medical science ignored for the long, but they knew. And I have no doubt that that's what's how the Incas, the Egyptians, and others did brain surgery. Just saying. Okay. Was this a fun show? And I didn't even get to the one thing. I will show you this one because I think that we will cover this next week as well. So let me just show you this one because this is going to be a fun read as well. Found it and I said, oh, this group has got to get this. So this is from dedicated for those who unconditionally believe in the official version of our history. And the book is Deja Vu, Has Everything Already Been? Yeah. This is by, I think that's Alexander. just I'm not even going to butcher that name. I'll just leave it as that. You do your own interpretation. But next week we're going to get into some of this. Again, looking at things as if everything repeats, then that means, and that's the thing about it. You look at the book of Ecclesiastics. There's nothing new under the sun that has not been known to man that which was yet shall yet be again, which was shall yet be again. Yeah. So if you believe in Solomon that he existed and that he apparently had this thing with this other god, that came down and give him the magic mushroom. I think what's what Solomon got. I know he got the ring, but anyway. So we're going to have fun with this. See how another person kind of looks at it as well. Are we in the end or are we at the beginning? I like that one. Doom from the heavens, regress of civilization, the rise of myths, when future meets with past. I think that that's where we're at right now. The future is meeting with the past, and the past that they have tried, oh, have they tried to keep suppressed. And only the elite were, allowed to have access to it. And why? Because it will make you rich. It'll make you powerful. I tell you what, if we got our shit together here, we could replace every person in Congress and they wouldn't even know it. That's how much power we're talking about. I don't want you to have that kind of power because they think that we're morons, we're peons. I don't think that we have the mental capacity, but more importantly, you're not the right blood breed. You're not the right, um, what's the word, pedigree. Well, I say screw you on that. We'll have fun. I mean, that's why they watch channels like this, and they do. Because the esoteric channels are the more serious threat than the conspiracy channels and all the other bad news, the people that push the bad porn, the fear porn. That's a distraction. And they hope that you go there. This is why they don't promote this channel. It's not like this. And it's why the channel, I don't care. I don't want, I like the intimacy of our group. So there you are. Hey, Mary Wins. How you doing, sweetie? Good to see you. Hey, Miriam. Oh, thank you, sweetie. Thank you. What a blessing. Thank you. That just, yeah, makes me blush. So there you go. That's all I can say on that one. So, Angel Dream says, thank you, American culture. Ain't that the truth? Yeah. Ain't that the truth? I mean, and listen, it's like you spend like your first 50 years and you get into this stuff and you go, what the hell? And then all of a sudden when you get out of it, you look back and you go, yeah. And it's difficult at times because we're going against the grain. We're going against the current. We don't believe like, you know, like they tell us to. We don't behave. We read the stuff that they say don't read. Like, why the hell did you go and do that? And then you get those comments, it's like people, delusional. I love it. Yeah, yeah. I have found being delusional is probably a better state of consciousness than being insane. Just saying. Bonnie, what's up? Southern Cross. That's it, by the way. Didn't who was the band Southern Cross? Anyway, I gotta go back and read this. I love the comments, by the way. Y'all have the best chat room. Robbie, what's up? Yes, there's you're amongst people, good friends here. Kindred souls, as I like to say. Love the comment. All right. So see y'all on Monday. Yeah. Have yourselves a great weekend. Weekend, isn't that always gets me? It's like, all right, so Saturday is technically the last day of the week, and Monday is technically, I mean, Sunday is technically the first. So how do they call that the weekend when it's actually the week begins? I don't know. Things I talk about. Robbie says, you're making my brain. Robbie ought to talk to my wife. She has literally told me, because I sometimes will get into these deep rants and usually it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and she will literally look at me and she says, my brain has stopped. I'm not listening anymore. Stop. I was like, too much from my brain. So yeah. Love y'all. Operation Crossroads, thank you. Appreciate that. I appreciate all of you. And I can't tell you how much you've enriched my life. And that's that's something that I'll carry for is forever, forever. I don't know. Is forever actually finite in itself? I don't know. I say that an eon, a epoch. I don't know. Is eternity eternity? How can you have eternities of eternities? They're the one for you. All the little things. I love it. All right, everybody. Love yourselves. Love those around you. Learn to smile. Get up and dance a little bit. Don't be embarrassed about it. You know what? You ought to see yourself dance in the mirror. Yeah, that's cool. Kind of get the double image thing going on, parallel universes. That's what I'm talking about. And then if you're into the ritual thing, why not? The gods will dance with you. If you're going to dance, invite the gods, invite the goddesses, invite those spirits. You know, they'll dance with you. They love to dance. You know, as Mark Bolan said with T-Rex, I love to boogie. The spirits like to boogie with Saturday night. Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. So go out and boogie. That's it. All right, everyone, peace be to you. We'll see each other on Monday.